Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to learn about two new things today. We're going to learn about something called case statements, which are another type of conditional expression. They're like the if statement that we already know, but a little bit more useful. And then we're also going to learn about some new properties for objects, and we'll talk about what that means. So that makes our objectives for today to learn about these new properties, the top and left properties of an object. That's going to help us to move its position. And we're going to learn about case statements, which are for conditional expressions where you don't want to just be one way or another. You can have many, many different ways of going. All right, so to do that, we're going to start by reviewing what properties are, in case you forgot. And then we'll learn specifically about these position properties, top and left. And then we'll just review what we've been learned so far about if and else statements, and then we'll do case statements, the new thing, at the end. So let's start by reviewing what properties are. So you probably remember that everything that you have on your form there, all the buttons, the text boxes, the labels, and all that, these are called objects. And so you can see some sample objects on the right side here, a label that says Hello World, the sample text box that you see there, a text box, and a button. These are all objects. Okay, they're just things that you have in your program. And every object has a whole large set of properties, right? Like the back color, the font, whether it's visible, the text, everything. And they're basically, these properties are the characteristics of the object that we can change, like its colors and things like that. So we have objects, the things in the form, and then we have its characteristics, which are called its properties. So for example, we have four labels right here. They all say Hello World, but each of the labels has different properties. One of them has a light blue background color. One of them has red four-color red text and a gray background color. One of them has a bigger font size, right? So they're all the same label, but they have different properties, okay, which change the way things look. It changes the characteristics of the object. All right, so how can we change properties? You know how to do this already. There are actually two ways that we can do it. One of them is in the properties window, right? You see this picture on the right side. That's usually in the bottom right when we're in the Visual Studio program. And you can go through that menu and change any of those at design time. When you're designing the program, you can make those changes. But you can also do it within the code with one of these periods, right? So if the label is called label 1, you can say label 1 dot and then the name of the property. And then you can say equals and then what you want the property to be. So for example, if you want the background color of label 1 to be a blue color, you can say label 1 dot back color is equal to and then the name of the color. Or if you want the text of the label to be hello there, you can say label 1 dot text equals hello there. So we use the dot to adjust the properties of something. We say the object's name dot the property is equal to what we want the property to be. And that will take that thing on the right side, whether it's a color or a piece of text, and put it in the property on the left side. All right, so that's how we change properties and what properties are in general. It's been a while since we've talked about those in specific, though we have been using them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to teach you about two new position properties. These are kind of fun properties. They're going to allow us to do some animations and make things move if we ever want to make a game or something like that. These are going to be perfect. So before I talk specifically about those top and left properties, I want to talk about two properties of the form itself. In fact, the form has properties just like an object does. The form is just the window that our program runs in. And it has, properties like the background color and the height and the width, okay? And specifically, I want to mention the height and width properties, which just tell you how tall the form is and how wide it is. And you can adjust these from the properties window, just like anything else. So let's jump into the Visual Studio for a second, and I'll show you how to adjust these properties. All right, so now that we have an idea of the height and width of a form and how that's done, I want to talk about these properties, the top and left. So if you take any object in the form, it has a top property. And the top property for, say, a button or a text box inside a form is how far away the object's top is from the top of the form. Now, that's a little confusing. So let me give you an example. Let's say we have a form. There it is. It's 300 by 300. And we have a button on the inside. Call it button 1. Okay. Now, its top property is how far away the top of the button is from the top of the form. So, for example, if top is equal to 0, the top of the button is 0 little pixels away from the top of the form. So the distance between the top of the button and the top of the form is 0, which means the button would be right there. If we set the top of the button's top property equal to 100, then there would be 100 little pixels between the top of the button and the top of the form. So that would look like this. There's some space between the top of the button and the top of the form. Now I said before the form is 300 pixels tall. Okay, so that means that if we were to say that top is equal to 300, well then the top of the button would be 300 pixels from the top of the form, which would be all the way down here at the bottom. Now, be careful, because if you set the top property of a button to be that far off, it actually won't show up at all. If it doesn't fit within the form, then it won't even appear. If you want to make sure that it fits in the form, then you got to give it some space and move it up some. So say a top of 50 would bring it up quite a bit. All right, so the same thing goes for something called the left property, okay? And the left property is like the top property, except it tells you how far away the left side of the object is from the left side of the form. So for example, if left is 0, the left side of the button is 0 pixels away from the left side of the form. So there it is right there. There's 0 distance between the left of the form and the left of the button. If you say left is 100, then there's 100 pixels of distance. And if you say left is 300, since the form is 300 pixels wide, it'll be all the way over here. But remember, if it's off the form, it won't show up at all. So I want to just show you a really quick example about how these left and top properties can be used. So I've made a little fun program where I have this label here, which is I've written race car on, and then a button that says vroom, right? And so when I double click on this button, I get the code for when I press that button. So let's say, for example, I wanted to change the left property of that race car. I wanted to make the race car move along to this way as I press the vroom button. How would I do that? So to change the left property of something, as we learned a minute ago, right? The name of the label is race car, so I can say race car, and then if I want to change the property of something, I use the dot. And if I want to make this thing move to the right or to the left, I use that left property, right? I use the top for up and down, but I use the left for left and right. Now I want to set that equal to something, right? What do I want to do? If I want to make the thing move to the right, then I want to increase the distance between the left side of the race car and the left side of the form. So I want this left property to get bigger. Okay, so I could say it equals 10, but that's not exactly right. That would just make the race car's left property be 10. That wouldn't make it move. If I keep pressing the button, it would just make it move to the space where its left side was 10 away from the left side of the form. So instead I want to say, well, the race car, its left property plus 10. So I take where it's at now, I add 10 to it, and then I put that into the race car left property. Right? This is just like when you made the number of hot dogs go up by 1. Now we're making the left property of the race car go up by 10. In fact, I'm going to change it so it goes up by 50. All right, let's see how this works. Now when I press the button, the race car's left property should go up by 50 each time. You'll see the amount of space between the left side of the race car and the left side of the form is increasing as I press the button. And I'll press it all the way so that the race car goes off the form to the right, as a reminder to you that if the object goes off the form, you won't see it anymore.